Hey book lovers, welcome back to my channel. If you can't tell, I'm in a new little chair, y'all, because I got a reading chair finally, and I love it so much. I got it for my birthday, but this is not what this video is about. The reading chair, sadly, is not the star of this video. It's gonna be about all the books I read in the month of September, so we're just gonna get right on into it. In the month of September, y'all, I read 9 books, which is a lot of books for me personally. I know there's people that read like 20 books a month. I have never gotten that far, but yeah, 9 books is pretty crazy. I ended up reading 4 fantasies, 2 romances, 1 thriller, 1 like YA mystery, and 1 nonfiction book. So the first book I read was The Blood Trader by Lynette Noni. This is the 3rd and final book in the Prison Healer trilogy, and oh, I love this book so much, y'all. I think this book was featured in one of my vlogs. I want to say I ended up reading the whole trilogy in that vlog, I think. I might, if I did, I will link it in the description so y'all can watch it if you want to. But I just really enjoyed reading this trilogy. I read it so fast. It was so addicting. It was like, the first book I will say is a little slower, but once you get past like the first book, and the end of the first book is like whew, and then you get past that and it's just like, it's so fun and exciting. I just really love the characters and the character development and the found family. All of that is just beautiful in the series, and I just admire it so much for that. So I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars when I finished it. I don't know if I would still say that today though, because I was thinking about it and I'm like, I really haven't thought about this book that much since I finished it. So is it still really a 5-star, or is it given 4.75? I don't know, y'all. I don't know. I feel like I have to reread it and then see if I get that same 5-star feeling that I got when I finished the book. But I will say, like, honestly, I have not thought about this book since I finished it. And that's not to say that I didn't love it. It's just like I haven't thought about it. But yeah, this was that book. And if you haven't read the trilogy yet, please read it. After I finished The Blood Trader, I ended up reading I was about to say the naturals. I ended up reading Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 2nd book in the Natural series, and I like this book a little bit more than the first book, but it's not like a amazing series for me. I will be honest about that. If you don't know, this is a YA like Criminal Minds type series that follows like teenagers, and they all have these special abilities that the FBI, or is it the CSI? No, the FBI uses in like special cases, and they like solve cold cases. That's what this series is about, but it gets like crazy. There's serial killers and like all that, and I had fun reading this book. I did, and I was very surprised in this book. Like throughout some of it, I was getting really good. I felt like, I'm like, how can I explain this? I felt like this book surprised me more than the first book, but it still wasn't like jaw-dropping, shocking. And I don't know if that's just because it's YA or if it's because it's just a book. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I still enjoyed it overall. I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars, and I will continue the series and finish it off. But because they are getting better each book, I'm just not obsessed. That's my honest opinion. So after I finished Killer Instinct, I went right into Daydream by Hannah Grace, and y'all, the man that he is, I love Henry down. I will definitely reread this book one day because the banter in this, the romance, the communication was A+. Like, there was no miscommunication in this book. There was none. And I loved it. I really did. I really loved the book. It was so fun to read. I felt so giddy while I was reading it, and I was like, oh my God, Henry, are you talking to me? Like, I was being delusional, y'all. But I also felt like I saw myself a lot in the female main character. She's just very introverted. She loves to read. She's like really smart. And I don't know. They're a beautiful couple. This book was just so fun. I saw myself a lot in the character. And if you haven't read it yet, please read it. If you don't know, this is the 3rd book in the Maple Hills, I think. Yeah, Maple Hills series. It follows Icebreaker and Wildfire. And this book is about Henry, and he's a member on the like hockey team in the school that they go to. And Holly she like runs a book club, and she's very introverted, like I said. And basically Henry needs a tutor, and she helps him, and then he finds a way to help her too. that's me explaining the book without spoiling it. But yeah, please read it. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars. And then upon second thought, this is another like me just rashly giving a book 5 stars and then like not thinking about it, which I never used to do, which I like don't understand why I've been doing that so much lately. But I think this is more of a 4.75 because I again didn't think about them for too long afterwards. Like I thought about them for a little bit, but then like 2-3 days later I was like not really thinking about them again. So I don't know if it's, I don't know. I'm gonna just say a 4.75 out of 5, but that should tell you that I just really love, like, this book is so good. Please read it. It's so cute. I feel like the author's writing has gotten so much better too as she's written more books. So yeah, love that. After I read Daydream, I ended up reading The Invisible Life of Edie Laroo on my Kindle, and y'all, I love that book. I love those characters. I love that world. I loved the writing. Everything was just absolutely amazing. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I will say when I first started the book, like the first part of the book, because there's multiple parts, the first part was really slow. Like I was like, what's gonna happen? Like, can we get to the point? I didn't really know what the book was about. I went into it pretty blind, but it was just slow. But then I kept reading and I was hooked. I could not put it down. I didn't want to put it down. I just wanted to be reading that book all the time. And Edie Laroo, I feel for her so badly. That book had me shedding tears that I didn't think I would shed. Like, I loved that book, and I loved V.E. Schwab's write. I loved why can't I say it? I loved V.E. Schwab's writing so bad. And yeah, I gave that book 4.5 out of 5 stars because it was amazing to me. The only reason it wasn't 5 was because of like the beginning being super slow. But oh, that book is so worth the read. It's so worth the read. If you haven't read it yet, please pick it up and read it. Whether it's on Kindle Unlimited or physical copy, whatever, please read it. I can't wait to get my physical copy of that book. I can't wait to get my hands on it so I can annotate it because the highlights in this Kindle goes crazy. And then after I read The Invisible Life of Edie Laroo, I read Grey After Dark. I can't remember who the author is by that book, but Grey After Dark, I'll put it on the screen. And I read that on my Kindle as well. And y'all, that was the thriller that I read this month, was Grey After Dark, and I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed. I went into that book thinking that it was a completely different book. I don't even remember what book I was trying to read, but it was not that one. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just finish it. I'm already reading it. Like, let me just finish it. It's super short. That book took me forever to get through because it was so boring, so predictable. I was like, no, I literally could not deal with that book, and I don't even really want to talk about it. The main character just felt stupid to me. She felt I don't want to say that. The main character, I will say it. She felt stupid to me. She made the dumbest decisions I have ever seen in my life, that I've ever read in my life. She made dumb decisions. The plot was extremely predictable. Like, before stuff even happened, I was like, oh, this is going to happen, and then it would happen. It was kind of like very unbearable to read. And I know you're probably like, girl, why did you finish the book then? I was like, maybe the ending is just something crazy, because the reviews online for that book are so good. So I was expecting it to be this like amazing, thrilling adventure, and it just was not that. And maybe it's not a thriller, maybe it's a mystery, I don't know. Even if it was a mystery though, it was a horrible mystery because I guessed every single thing that happened. So I ended up giving that book 2.5 out of 5 stars, and that was me being extremely generous because I did not enjoy that book at all, and I would not recommend it. But do what you will, do what you must. If you want to read it, by all means. I just personally would not recommend that book. After I read Grey After Dark, I read All About Love by Bell Hooks. I actually started this book months ago. I cannot remember what month I started this in, but I read This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan, and in that book they talk about all about love, like throughout the entire book. So I was like, ooh. And it had been a book that I've been eyeing for years, like, oh, I want to read that book one day, I want to read that book one day. And then I read it in that book, and I was like, oh, I have to read this book now because this book is literally talking about all about love. So I picked it up and I started it, and it's just like, with these types of books, I have to read them very slowly. I just did not want to pick this book up, if I'm being honest. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. I didn't rate it because it's like a nonfiction book and I read it over the span of months, so I honestly just didn't feel like I should rate it. I probably should have took notes. It felt like a book that I needed to take notes while I was reading it, and I didn't do that. So I will say a lot of the like stuff that was talked about in this book, it felt very repetitive, like the same thing over and over and over again in these chapters. And I think that's why it took me so long to finish it, because it you guys can see like it's a short book. So I would typically finish this in probably like a day if I wanted to, but it felt like I was reading a textbook, and it was extremely repetitive, and I just did not like that. But I will say it talks like a lot about different types of love. So if you want to read something like that, definitely get your hands on it. Get your hands on it. I would just say to like take notes, because it has some cool tips in there, but nothing that I honestly really remember, if I'm being completely honest. After I read that, I read The Ashes in the Starcurst King by Carissa Broadbent. This is the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, but it also says book 2 of the Nightborn duet. So I don't know. I guess this is the duet within the series. Not sure how the series is gonna work, because there's another book coming out in November, but it's following a different character. Anyway, this is the second book in the series, third if you count the novella Six Scorched Roses, which I did read earlier this year, and it was amazing. And if you haven't read it yet, you definitely should, because it was a really, really good novella. But I read this book, and I will be honest, a lot of people were saying that they didn't like this book because it was like a lot of politics and blah, 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 blah. But I enjoyed it. I was expecting to not like it as much, and I did really much so enjoy it. I think the first one was still my favorite, just because it had like more action with the, you know, the games and all that. Not games, but like the trials or whatever. But this one was still so fun and enjoyable, and I think I just really love these characters, and that just made me like really into this book. I just love them. I think they're so cute, and I love Rain. I love him. Like I have no faults against him. I love him. So I just had a fun time reading this book. I won't say too much of what it's about, because that's a spoiler for people who haven't read it yet, and I don't like to spoil. But I will say I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the first book basically is about a world where like it's mainly vampires. They have different houses and stuff like that. And this girl Araya gets adopted by a vampire, and she's a human, and everybody's like, oh, she's his human pet or whatever. He raises her, he loves her as his own daughter, and he trains her to go into these trials where she can like win and get something, like any wish that she wants. So that's what the series is about, but this is the last book and their points of views. So really enjoyed it. Highly recommend if you have not read it yet. The Serpent and the Wings of Night is the first one that you need to get and read. So then I read Ricochet by Becca and Krista Ritchie on my Kindle, and this is the second book in the Addicted Calloway Sister series that it starts off following Lily and Lo, and they're both addicted to something. Lily's addicted to sex, Lo's addicted to booze, and they're besties, and they just like hide their addictions together. And then you get like her sisters in future books. This book specifically, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. I just got annoyed a couple times with Lily, which is the main female character in the first couple books of the series. Yeah, she just gets on my nerves sometimes. I love her and Lo, but she just gets on my nerves sometimes. I love Lo though, but yeah, that's what that book was about. Last book I read in the month of September was One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but add in some fantasy with witches and modern day Manhattan, and you get this book. This book, I don't know if I was just in a slump while I read it, or if it's the book itself. I know the ending really annoyed me, because I just felt like it was unnecessary. I thought the ending in Romeo and Juliet made a little bit more sense than this one. I just felt like some people got happy endings that didn't deserve it, and others didn't, and I didn't understand it. But the writing was like still decent in this book. I wasn't amazed by it, but it was enjoyable. There were some good quotes in here, and some of the characters I liked, some of the characters I hated. So yeah, I didn't love this book, but I didn't hate it. It was 3.25 out of 5 stars for me. So that's all the books I read in the month of September. I had a pretty decent reading month overall. Nothing too crazy, but yeah, that's it. 9 books in total, and we'll see what I read this month, and I'll let you guys know. Thank you so much for watching today's video and listening to me talk about all the books I read in September, and I hope I see you guys in the next one. Bye.